5 minutes. 5. Hobby with Cage 222. FanaticsFest First National. Brought to you by Bleaker Trading and Arena Club. I've done a couple episodes now. We're going to move past FanaticsFest because we're now, a month away from the National. Seems only fair. The number 2 podcast in the world in this category. Check out my story. Sports Cause Nonsense, and it's me. It always has been. Nobody else. Everybody else a distant third. It seems fair with all the messages that I'm getting. Oh, what does this mean for the National? What does it mean for the National? Let's talk about that. It means absolutely nothing. But, let's dive a little deeper. Everyone who told me that they had fun at FanaticsFest, everybody who mentioned FanaticsFest in the same breath as the National, everybody who made the comparison between the two is what I would like to call new money. There's nothing wrong with new money. Fanatics themselves are new money in this space. Hell, they came in, they bought tops, they bought the licenses. They still haven't made the licensed cards yet for basketball and football. That's coming soon. But think about how new they are, that while they've made products, their license hasn't even kicked in for those two sports yet. That's how new we're talking about. FanaticsFest now, 2 of them. The people who loved it are people who have businesses that started up in the last couple of years. People who, who, for lack of a better way of saying it, love the corporate events, love that stuff that's there because it's new. And because this new money has been told for the last couple of years, while they're doing things differently, while they're looking for space at shows, while they're looking for activations, while they're looking to be invited and be part of it, that they can't be at the National. And the National is going to do record events. They're going to do record attendance. I'm sure it's going to be a huge, huge turnout. And there are going to be thousands of people who are at the National who would never go to a Fanatics Fest because that's just not their hobby. So it'll always be great. But the people who are moving the hobby forward have a difficult time getting a table at the National. Can't get a sublet table. It's not allowed. Can't get in. But at Fanatics Fest, they get in. Fanatics Fest, they're welcomed. They have a seat at the table. And everybody who I spoke to, without fail, who was set up in that card section, everybody said it was a great show. Most of them said better than the National. And there are people I know who have been in this space for a long time who said this event will replace the National for them for a myriad of reasons, a lot of which having nothing to do with the cards, but that you can meet your friends here. You can still see your hobby friends. You can meet up with them, instead of just being on Instagram. And you have the city. You have the activations. You have the athletes. You have the events. You have that stuff. But more importantly, when it's over, if you want to go grab a nice dinner, you don't have to brave whatever it is that you're going to take in to Chicago proper or Atlantic City or Cleveland or Atlanta. You're in New York City. You want to go get pizza, you get pizza. You want to get a steakhouse, you get steakhouse. You want to go see a Broadway show, you go see a Broadway show. You want to see a sporting event, go see the Yankees. They're a block away from Madison Square Garden. There's plenty to do. Something the National never has. The air conditioned worked. The event space was more than enough for what they had going on, and they had leagues there. They had Wemby there. They had Cooper Flagg there. They had LeBron there. I had a conversation with someone, and I said, it was Prism God. I said, when will LeBron go to the National? I said, not till he's 80. And Prism God said, no, not even then. He'll be too rich. He won't need to go. And it's probably true. He doesn't ever go to the National, but he's at Fanatics Fest. And let me tell you something that Michael Rubin said in an interview, I think with a boardroom interview. He said that this is not a money-making event for them. Think about that for a second. Because while the National, I don't think I think they're a nonprofit. Don't quote me on that. I don't think they're doing it to not make money. Fanatics is a bigger entity. It's a bigger company. And they can throw an event like this that maybe loses money, but in the grand scheme of things is a net positive for their business, because they get all of this press, all of this PR, all of these great activations, all of the, the positivity for their brand and their partners. They have an ability for Dick's to show up and, do their thing, and the leagues to show up and do their things, and Cane's Chicken to show up and do their thing. I mean, it is, it's a different kind of event. It's a different kind of show. There were a lot more families there. I saw a lot more dads with sons and daughters, moms with their kids, a lot more families. Premier League had video game soccer, kick the ball, and, you run the 40-yard dash, which was really accessible to everybody. I mean, just stuff that you don't have at the National that they have here. When you combine the New York City, the access to kind of the new businesses and the new people in the space, and the leagues, the celebrities, the firepower that Fanatics brings, it's kind of silly to make the comparison because they're not really comparable things. But I did hear people saying that if they had to choose one, this would be their one. How about you? If you've been to both, you agree with that? Or is the National always going to be that one event that you have to go to per year? Go see your friends. Go see your hobby family. I will tell you one thing that FanaticsFest did not get right is not having PSA there. And I know this is a business thing, and I know CGC was a big partner, but if the National has PSA and these grading companies grading on site, for the hobby, for card folks, that is a huge thing. You want to talk about liquidity being added to the room, making it better for dealers and stuff. Fanatics has the activations. They have the products that are being released, the Cactus Jack, the baseball specific product, the F1 product, and all of a sudden, like you buy it and boom, immediate cash in the room. Liquidity event. Same thing happens with card grading. On-site grading, immediate injection of cash into the room. People are grading cards and just adding value to them when they're getting high grades on those cards, and they move around the room at the National, and it's just something that may never happen at Fanatics Fest, and that's okay. Maybe they don't need that. Maybe that's not what that show is about. Another reason why they're not really comparable events. But I gotta tell you, just as a conclusion, I thought it was a great event. I thought they did a very good job. They got a lot of clippable content, a lot of great moments, a lot of great celebrities, a lot of people talking about it. I can tell you just from my own, my own life here, I've never heard anybody, from just kids, parents, sports, you name it, say, hey, I heard the National this year is in Cleveland or Chicago. Should I think about taking my kid? But we got a lot of people asking about whether or not Fanatics Fest was a place they should take their kids. Brought to you by Oblique Trading and Arena Club. 5 minutes that turned into 8.5. I hope you enjoyed it. From the #2 podcast in the hobby. I'm coming for you, #1 sports card nonsense. I'm coming for you, the ringer. See you guys soon.